Hello everyone, and welcome back to Canal Sidings Model Railway channel. We're not talking about Canal Sidings Model Railway today. We're talking about my new layout, North Grove. Still don't have any baseboards. They're due any time now, and until they arrive there's not much I can do to think about the exact track layout I want to use. But as I've said before, I needed to get a couple of shed buildings built so that I could know exactly what the track spacing needed to be and where these shed buildings would go. Now, you've seen most of this one before, but you haven't seen it with its roof on. It is now complete with its roof. As you can see, it's fixed. I can hold it up by the roof, and it has doors on that end which are permanently closed, and it has doors on this end which are permanently open. I've added a little fan up there, which is my concession to a little bit of ventilation inside. What I intend to do, I've thought about ventilation and couldn't come up with what sort of ventilators that I needed on the roof. What I've now decided to do is produce one which is either two sections, one there and one there, or one long section, and it will be it will be a pitched roof version, possibly with the square siding on the top of it and some kind of slat in it, and then presumably, although they'll be out of sight, there would be fans underneath to take out the diesel fumes. This would just be an auxiliary fan to allow for a bit of air circulation when there's actually no locomotive running in there and the mechanics are actually working on it. So that's my theory, and that's what I shall be looking at doing. The side of the building that we will see is this side, with the door in it for personnel here, nothing on the other side. Here there will be a retaining wall, so you won't be able to see much of that anyway. I need to add lots of signage, and I need to detail the inside, but I can't do any of that really until I get to the point of having track down and looking at how much space I need to allow for the locomotives. So that's as far as this can go at the moment. But what I have also been doing is working on the other single road shed building, which I'll just move this one out of the way and show you that. So here we have the single road version of the diesel shed. This one is the repair shed. It's still waiting for its buttresses at that end, and it's waiting for its buttresses at this end. I've decided to model that with a solid brick wall because I don't want it to be a through shed. With hindsight, I should have done it with the other shed, but that'll be hard up against the back seam. This won't, so we'll see how that turns out. I've tried to make this one a bit different by having the door in the centre, and again the detailing needs to be done inside, and I've made the roof, but the roof is not yet fixed, so you can actually see the construction is exactly the same as the other one. Well, you can't see the construction from there because it's got the guttering on, which you didn't see on the other one, I don't think, but the construction is exactly the same as the other one, and the guttering is just that channel that I got, which is evergreen section. It's 1/4 inch by 2mm, I think 2mm channel, and it does make quite good guttering. But you can now see how the roof is built. It's simply a sheet of 1mm plasticard which has been bent. It does tend to crack. At one end of this cracked, the other end didn't, but I simply set it as best I can to the angle and then fill down this trough with lots of solvent to try and hold it together. It's only a carrier. It actually sits in between these ends, and this piece sits onto the two buttresses. Whoops, look it out of the way. The two buttresses that you can see here. And if you look closely at it, if I can get it to focus, hopefully you can see that there are little notches cut out there and there which sit over those buttresses. That gives the centre a bit of strength. So this 1mm plastic card is really a carrier for the outside, which is again the same material I used before, the siding material from who are they? Forgotten. Wills. That's it. This is the Wills siding material, and the ends, these ends, sit into this slot here, which is made from the edge of the 1mm plastic card and these pieces that are supplied in the Wills kit, that are the corner pieces. When you join two bits like that, they go on the outside, and then that just sits over. I don't know if I've got, let me get it the right way round. It's hard to work it out now that it's painted. I think it's that way around is the correct way round. Yes, that's the correct way round, I think. If it doesn't fit properly, we'll know that it needs to go the other way round. Yes, I think that's the right way round. And then, as you can see, it's harder to turn over. As you might be able to see, these are sitting, oh, I've just not got it on properly and got a bit of paper caught. That is a problem with paper covered plastic. It sits down into there and I can glue it to there. It sits over the ends, so I can glue it there, and it also sits flush along, or flat along the top of the inner section of the guttering, so I can glue it there. And I found that having done all of that, there's no light leakage on the large one that we looked at before. So that's still got to be finished, but it's well on the way now. The bulk of the work is done. The windows turned out quite nicely. I'm quite pleased with the way they worked. I did assemble them in a different way in the end. First thing I did was I started by assembling the window material, the 10 thou with the bars in it, which is a complete sheet in two sections, onto the window material. That was really difficult to get it flat, and I wasn't happy with it. What I then did was assembled the window bars onto the back of the other plastic card sections, and then as a complete assembly fitted that to the window material, the glazing material, and that worked a lot better. I did that on the other side of the first one because I'd done the first one the previous way, but I put it on the window material first, and it does work better by making it a complete assembly first. And then, in order to get the glazing bars to sort of get a bit of a grip on to the glazing, what I did was I needed to get a little bit of the solvent down the back of the glazing bars. Now luckily the solvent, which is limonene that I used to put this on, doesn't attack this PET material. It will if you leave it on long enough, and liquid poly, which is another material that I use, which is much more aggressive and gives a stronger joint, and of course that's not important on laminated, that will attack this material, but limonene doesn't. So with a very small brush I simply dipped it in the limonene and, holding it like this, just ran the brush down like that, and the capillary action took it underneath. I didn't touch it again, and in some places you can see where I wandered a little. It's difficult to see whether the camera can pick anything up. If I can get a bit of light to shine on it, you might be able to see what I mean. I'm struggling here to get the light to shine on it the way it's doing for me. Oh, there we go. It's a little bit of light. You may be able to see on this one a little bit of fogging, which is actually not where the limonene has attacked the glazing material, but simply where it sat on top and dried, and it just fogs it a little bit. But the windows would probably have been dirty anyway. I can't believe they would have been cleaned very often, if ever. So I'm not unhappy about that. So that's where we are on the build of North Grove at the moment. Can't go any further. I shall build another ventilator onto this building, the same as for the other one. I'm pointing over there because it's actually sitting here out of shot. But I'll do those probably much later once I've got everything on the layout. They can live without those to start with. Again, this needs plenty of signage, and it will need signage on the ends, and it needs the door fitted, which obviously has to be open, otherwise you can't get into it. So that's all I want to say about the buildings for now. The next thing I want to show you is a little talk about locomotives for North Grove. So the locos for North Grove, they are the reason for building it, because I wanted to make a collection of and run some more modern image locomotives to just take advantage of the amazing number of different liveries that are out there at the moment. And I say at the moment because the railway has hit a period of being less interesting now, because pretty well everything you see is either a multiple unit, or the freight is pretty much in the hand of the all-conquering Class 66, and you don't see a lot of other things. You'll see a few 67s or 68s, but I want to go back, as I've said, to the earlier years of privatisation, when you could have the old BR sector liveries as well as the early privatisation liveries. And so to that end I've chosen the period, and it's quite loose, anywhere between 1995 and 2000. That is the rail track era, and my philosophy is, if a loco of a particular class, if any loco of a particular class, let's get this right, ran in a particular livery at any time during that period, then I am happy to put a loco, not necessarily the one that ran in that period, on the railway. Now what I've actually done is I found that I can find quite a few locos which the actual example of the loco in the livery that it is depicted actually ran during my period, or as best as my research will allow me to discover. And to that end I'm going to show you a couple of the locomotives that will be running on North Grove that both fall into that category. So I'll get the first loco ready. So here is the first example of a loco that is going to be running on North Grove. This, as you may already know, is a Class 20. It was built during the 1950s, I think, and possibly into the 60s. And it was built by English Electric, I think at Newton the Willows, but I'm not sure. I guess a lot of these things. But they were one of the original Type 1 locomotives, which designated their power classification really. And when tops came along they were classified Class 20. This is the Bachmann version, which has the head code boxes front and rear, as opposed to the indicator discs. I quite like the head code box version. What it doesn't have is a high intensity running light, and I haven't finished my checks as to how many of these had them. I know that from 2005-ish DRS seemed to have most of them, and they were used on a lot of nuclear flask traffic, which was something that DRS made its own. And a lot of them were repainted in DRS's blue livery with the green emblems on the side. This one, 2132, actually stayed in the rail freight livery, the rail freight red stripe, which is depicted here, all the way through my period, as far as I can make out. Some information is quite sketchy on what goes on, but it did appear to, and I have photographic evidence of it still running in that livery in about 2002, so well past the end of my livery. So this locomotive actually ran in this livery, and it ran in my period in this livery, so all good. This is the early Bachmann 8-pin DCC version and doesn't have any running lights, so these little yellow lights don't light, and the indicator box lights don't light, and the same on the front. There's an indicator box and two red lights. There are kits available from Express Models, among others, for adding lights to it, but there's precious little space in here, and the cab is quite difficult to get off. So I'm in two minds as to how to do this, and there's not much space for a decoder and a speaker either. So I'm in two minds what to do. Whether to attack it myself, buy an Express Models lighting kit and a decoder and speaker. I can probably get a Sugar Cube speaker somewhere. People say they have fitted them in the cab. Others say that they fitted them under the fan, but the 8-pin model has the decoder socket under the fan. The 21-pin model that Bachmann only sold sound fitted had the decoder socket up this end, and they put the speaker under the fan. So I'm not very sure about how I'm going to get the sound out if I do it myself. The other option I've got is to get Olivia's to do it for me, and they will fit lights, and they will fit a cab light, and they will fit sound and a speaker with the correct sound files in. The difference in price is quite a lot. If I do it myself, assuming I don't destroy the loco, then doing it myself will cost me about £100 for the decoder and speaker, and I think £15 for the Express Models lighting kit, plus a few ancillary bits and pieces so that I can put cab light in, etc. So we're talking about £120 perhaps. If I get Olivia's to do it, we're talking more like 220. So I haven't made up my mind what to do yet. I would like someone else to do it because there is so little room inside it, but I will make that decision closer to the time. Initially it won't run with sound or lights. It will be a loco that is just got a decoder in it, and I have actually fitted a decoder, and I've dropped it down behind the grille here and plugged it in up the top there where it fits perfectly. It's a Hatton's decoder. They're very cheap. They're made by DCC Concepts. They're very good decoders, but they are, when you buy the Hatton's branded version, they are very cheap. And I know they're DCC Concepts because I asked Hatton's who makes their decoders, and they told me it was a DCC Concepts decoder. And when I connect it to JMRI, although it comes up as Hatton's brand, if I say it's actually one of these, it says, oh okay, and shows me everything that I know that these decoders can do. And I've used a lot of the facilities, like function control of the motor. A lot of decoders don't have that. All DCC Concepts ones do. Not that that's much use in a locomotive, but it's very useful if you use a what do they call them, a motor decoder rather than a function only decoder. If you use a motor decoder in a coach, then I've used the motor output on a switch to control the lights, and you can still program it because it will still flicker on and off to read back the CVs for you, etc. So that does actually work, but we won't go into that. That's JMRI technology and decoder technology, which is something that I have gone into a fair bit, but it's not really for this video. Anyway, so that's the first loco that I want to show you that will be running on North Grove. Initially, no sound, no lights. If anyone knows of a video or a blog or a forum topic that shows fitting lights, preferably express models ones, but fitting lights and sound to an 8-pin Bachmann Class 20, then do let me know. I have done a search and what I've found isn't particularly useful, but don't mind if you find what I've already found. If you find something else or you know of something, then do let me know. I'd much appreciate it. Okay, let's look at the next loco then. Okay, and here's the other locomotive I want to show you for today. Excuse Lenny and Huey. They've gate crashed the party, as they often do, so if they annoy you, tell them to go away. They won't take any notice, but it might make you feel better. Yes, as you can see, this loco is a Class 47. It's another Bachmann, and it is in what is often known as the new rail freight livery. The original rail freight livery was the second rail freight livery after the one you just saw, which was the large logo red stripe. The second rail freight livery was dark grey roof, mid grey top body side, light grey bottom body side. What we now have is the third iteration of the rail freight grey, which is blue roof, dark grey top side and light bottom side, and with the actual sector written on it as well as being shown by this. This one is part of the rail freight distribution fleet that was around before privatisation, and it was the fourth, as far as I can make out, bringing together that happened by British Rail and the government in order to facilitate privatisation. There was mainline, Transrail and load haul, which were the big three that were created as smaller versions of the enormous rail freight operation that the government felt would sell better, and this was the fourth one, which was distribution, and this was its original logo. This logo was on earlier models during during the pre-privatisation era, and this locomotive actually, which is 47365, actually ran in this livery during my period, for most of that period, I think. So, and again, another loco that fits my period perfectly okay. In the event, while we're going on about it, in the event Transrail, mainline and load haul, which you'll hear a lot more about when we talk about other locos in future videos, they were all bought by EWS, or Wisconsin somebody who renamed the whole brand EWS, which was English, Welsh and Scottish Railways. Their logo was EW and S to start with, but eventually they dropped the ampersand and it became EWS. But they didn't purchase rail freight distribution straight away. What happened was Freightliner bought the container traffic of rail freight distribution, as far as I'm aware, and eventually in about 1997, I think, the rest of rail freight distribution was bought by EWS, but it didn't happen straight away. Not that it bothers me who owned what. This loco fits my period and it's a beauty, I have to say. It's the Bachmann model. It's 21 pin DCC ready. It has no decoder in it at the moment. I haven't fitted it yet. It has all the running lights on the front. It has the normal 2, and it has the high intensity light here, which was being fitted long before privatisation, but a lot of models don't have it. And it has the red lights for going the other way, and that is all repeated on the other end of the loco as well. I think it's an excellent livery. It probably needs a little bit of weathering, but it just looks so good that I might just keep it in that condition for a little bit longer. It was brand new when I bought it, as was the Class 20. I have bought a couple of second-hand locos, and they're Hornby, and they don't work very well. Motors run beautifully, mechanisms are fine, but the lights fail on Hornby locos, it would appear. So I've bought some spares and I shall be putting them together. But for now, we're looking at the Bachmann locos. So there you have it. That is as far as I've got on anything for North Grove. I'm going to wind this video up now because I don't intend to talk about anything else, and it's probably gone on for long enough. If you've been with me all the way through, then thanks for that. Thank you for watching. Do remember to subscribe, like, share, and I will be back soon. Bye everybody.